Good morning, everybody. Welcome to Attract and Stand Out Brand Building Virtual Summit. I'm your host, Darlene Holly, and I am so excited that you guys are joining us for my second annual virtual summit. For those of you that don't know me, my name is Darlene, and I'm a personal branding and business clarity coach, and I work with ambitious, heart-centered online entrepreneurs to help them create a successful personal brand and business by building a solid foundation for their business so they can share their message with the world, attract dream clients, and make more money doing what they love. This year's summit is all about building a profitable personal brand and business that allows you to authentically show up and connect with your audience. And I'm so excited to feature so many amazing business owners who are out there living the dream, working their business, making connections, and I'm sharing their powerful stories with you during this week-long virtual summit. Today, I'm excited to share with you my good friend, Lais. I'm so glad that you're here with me today. Go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about who you are.
So thank you so much for having me, Darlene. My name is Lais Cortegana. I live in Brazil, and I help business owners bring the best of who you are to their brands and business so that they can really shine from the inside out and bring their light to their business. What else to say? I work with brand and web design it's been about 3-4 years now, almost 4 years, full on my business. I worked with design before with an agency, and it's been about a little bit more than 1 year that I actually embraced the astrology part, and it has been more magic since.
Yes. So what was it that made you want to start your own business? I know you were doing design before. What was it that kind of pulled on your heart to start doing it on your own?
So when I was working with an agency, we worked for bigger businesses, and I felt it was lacking the connection. I love seeing what makes people shine, and with big businesses, although it's fun, you can create a lot of things, it's not like you have that personal element that you have when you have personal brands. And I really missed that. And once I started working with solo entrepreneurs, it made so much more sense that we could really, I felt like I was making a difference in that instead of just creating for a big corporation.
Yeah, and especially when you work one-to-one with people, you're able to build that relationship, connect with them, really understand what they want their business to look like, help them create that brand to be exactly who they are. And when you're working like in corporate America or corporate everywhere, like it's so like transactional, and it's just another project, another thing you're doing, and you don't really get a chance to know who they are and the kind of their why behind it. So you're right, you can make that big connection when you're doing it on that one-to-one space. So yeah. I know that you do astrology branding, and the reason I had you on today for the summit is because it's newer to me. I feel like I've always known like what astrology is, and I'm a Cancer, and I know I have like the crab as my my sign, but I never really thought about how that impacted who we are and how we show up, especially as the online world grows and we're all influencers. We're all building like these personal brands, whether we have a business or not. Almost everybody has a chance to be who they are and show their personal brand in the online space. So I'm super interested to learn a little bit about how you started to use astrology in working with clients and helping them build a brand based off of who they are. So what's some of that story? Like, how did you even know to use astrology in your branding?
Great question. So actually, I was introduced to astrology when I was 11 years old by an aunt of mine who is an astrologer. And it was just fascinating to me. It made so much more sense because I'm a Virgo, and at 11 years old, I was always feeling I'm not really a Virgo. And when she showed that my rising sign was Scorpio and my moon was Aries, and all how everything were connected, everything made so much more sense to me. And nowadays I see the Virgo as well, but it took me a while to develop the sun as for a lot of people, it takes a while to develop the actual sun, because we develop the sun, which is the sign that most people know,
Yeah.
based on the month where you were born, through the rising sign, because the rising sign is where basically how you put yourself in the world and how people will perceive you. So that's where everything started. And when I was creating my brand, when I decided to quit my my job in an agency and start my business, I turned to astrology to help me figure out my brand. But I didn't think that I was use that in my business at all. And I think it was 2 years ago, I decided to take an astrology class to understand better for myself.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even thinking I was going to use this in my business. And then everything started to click, and I saw, wow, I actually can use this, and it makes so much more sense to build a brand from the inside out. And I started playing with it. I offered sessions to friends. I offered sessions after for more people, and I started actually incorporating, and it turned into an offer, and now it all moved from there.
It all came together so nicely. I love that. So what does that process look like? So when you are working with somebody and helping them build their website or helping them create different visuals and content, do you actually like pull up the material? Like what information do you need from somebody to even find out what their astrology branding would look like?
Yeah, so to know everything about this, a person's birth chart, you need the date and time and the place where they were born. Because if you don't have the time, it's hard to know the actual rising sign, which is where everything starts to create a brand. And it's all about energies. What you have in there is basically how the energies of the universe came together to form you when you were born. So I basically read what energy you have to help you develop that, and to help find out what are the colors that make sense to it, what are the shapes that make sense to it. So just to give an example, Cancer, it's more soft, it's more nourishing, so the forms, the colors are going to fit that in some way as well. But your rising sign is different, so that what I can't remember if it's Gemini. I think
we did my rising sign when we did a session together, and I was Gemini for the rising sign. And
so the Gemini will bring more electricity to the brand, that if you were going to look at just Cancer alone, you wouldn't have. It would be just the nurturing side. So you have this communicative and very bright side of you as well. So it's about integrating all the pieces, and it's not just about how it fits in the brand, but it's also about helping each of my clients integrate all of who they are, to actually be able to bring all this multifaceted personality that everyone has, because we're not just one thing, right? We all have more facets to it, but sometimes we hide some parts that we think it's are not necessarily fitting to the business, or sometimes it's not even that it's not fitting, we don't know how to use it. So it's finding out how to use everything that all your potential in your brand.
So what happens then typically if somebody's not using their astrology for their brand? Like what typically have you found? Like I'm sure you've worked with people where they've brought their website and their materials to you, and then you kind of looked up what their astrology is and pulled all that together. And what types of tweaks do you typically find that you make changes for people when they come to you?
So usually some people are very in tune with them, and it's very simple. But usually what I see is they tend to go for a website that fits the industry. So colors that fits the industry, a story that is appropriate to the industry, pictures that are appropriate to the industry, and it doesn't really bring their personality up. So that's the main problem that I see. And usually they themselves tell me that they feel that their brand, it's not them. And they know this, they just don't know how to bring that up. So,
Yeah, and
yeah.
that's so common too, because I have people that come to me and they've started their business, they've kind of started creating their website and getting all the things put together, and they're like, it doesn't feel like me. Like, they're seeing what other people are doing in their niche, and they're seeing like, oh, like she looks like a successful, I'll use myself as an example, she's a successful business coach. So when I started my business, I was looking to see what other business coaches were doing, and some of them were in front of the Eiffel Tower, and they were in bright colors that, like, I use pink in my branding, but it's not like my top color. But a lot of them I noticed were using like a bright pink for their branding. And I was like, oh, so I need to like take a picture in front of the Eiffel Tower, and I need to wear bright pink, and I need to do all these things. And then as I like really came to like pull my brand together as me as a whole, I was like, no, like that's not you. That's not Darlene. That doesn't look like me. It doesn't sound like me. It's almost like you're looking though at what everybody else is doing, and you feel like you have to do what they're doing. And that's such a disservice to who you are and how you show up in the world, especially when you bring in like the astrology piece to it, because like if I'm trying to be something that I'm not, like it's not going to attract clients in, it's not going to help me standing out in the marketplace. So I'm glad that you brought that up.
Yeah, and what you said is perfect, especially because it might even attract clients, but it's not going to be the ideal clients. And that leads to that burnout of, oh, I don't love my business anymore. And of course, it happens because you end up attracting not the right clients to you, not the ones that are going to love the way you do things and your uniqueness in your brand, because you're not showing it. So yeah, definitely.
So true. So what's the best way then to market ourselves once we figure out what our astrology is? Like, what are some tips that you have that we can implement to kind of just help brand ourselves and have ourselves standing out, showing up as ourselves, not as the Eiffel Tower or standing in front of a Ferrari, because that's not most of us. I don't even know if that's the people that use that as their branding. I'm like, is that really your car, or did you just rent that for your photo shoot?
So true. So great question. So there's a lot of points in a birth chart that, which is the astrology piece, that we can look at. So for example, when we look at the rising sign and any planets that are in there, it gives us an idea of how you best communicate and how people are going to perceive you naturally. So you can emphasize that. Also, when we look at the Mercury is one of the planets. It is a planet of communication. So it will give you a few ideas for marketing as well. The fifth house is about what lights you up. So it will give ideas of topics that you can be talking, because every time that you talk about things that light you up, you will be more magnetic. So it's good to have that as well. And one thing that is very interesting as well is that the sun, going back to the sign that everyone knows, it talks about your vitality as well. And whenever you feel that you need that umph of energy to go on a Facebook Live or to do an Instagram story or whatever, a webinar, doing any activity related to your sun and the house where it is, because there's houses in the birth chart as well, it will help you bring your energy up. So just to give a tip, of course there's specific things for each one of the 12 signs, but if you just look at the element, so there's water, earth, fire and air. If you do an activity related to the element of your sun sign, it will help you bring your energy up. So if you are a water sign, drinking water, taking a shower, going to the beach or a river, swimming will help you bring that energy up. If you're an earth sign, going to nature, putting your feet on the floor, taking some crystals in your hands, any grounding activity will help you bring your energy up. If you're a fire sign, going to the sun, taking some sunshine, or doing some activity, some exercise is going to hit your body and make you more magnetic as well. And if you're an air sign, movement again helps because air is all about movement as well, but also chatting with someone or meditating will help bring that energy up.
Yeah, and that's so good because I'm a water sign. I'm a Cancer, and my happy spot is at the beach. Like, I love to be around water. I take hot baths like 3 to 4 times a week typically. I love to go to the ocean. I love to be by water. I grew up around a swimming pool, and like that's always been like my spot to go to. So I love that you mentioned that because, and just something as simple as drinking water, like I never thought about how that could like energize me or fuel me up. But since we've talked about that before, when we initially had our conversations, I've noticed that like the more that I put myself in that element, like it just feeds my soul in like a different way, and it just helps me feel better. So I love that you have that. And it's important to know like which sign you are. And like once you figure that out, you're like, oh, I don't have to like guess anymore. You're like, I'm just going to go take a bath. Like, I know that's what rejuvenates me. That makes me filled up. So I just do it now.
Yeah, I'm happy to hear that. And it's very literal, the thing of being in your element, right? Because you're basically being in your element in your sun sign.
Yeah, no, it's so good. So if somebody's new to astrology and they're like curious, like how to work this into their business and their brand, what types of things, what's the first step that you have people do with you?
The first step is to, well, usually if they're working with me, or do you want to know?
Yeah, like when somebody decides they want to start learning about astrology branding, what does that look like when you take someone through that process, like first step wise?
Yeah, so the first thing is always the rising sign. Knowing your rising sign will basically unlock a lot of the things in your personality, and understanding how that can help not only in visuals but also in the way you market yourself, in the way you create your brand. So for example, my rising sign is Scorpio, so curiosity is something that it's good for me to use. So whenever I feel that, okay, I need to bring more people to my business, it's better for me to tap into the curiosity piece to create some mystery than to try to talk about what it is, because making people curious will help me more.
Yeah.
Which would be different than someone with Leo rising, which would be more really expressing themselves and bringing, talking more, bringing more attention to themselves. So depending on the rising sign, it will be different the way you put yourself in marketing and branding as well.
Awesome. Can you tell or share an example of like one of your clients that you worked with and how they've come to you with whatever their brand has looked like, and kind of what types of things you've done with them to help create their brand to be more like them?
Yeah. So one thing that it is easier to show than tell sometimes, but I'm gonna give an example that I really liked.
Yeah.
So I had a client. She's, well, I don't know how much the people watching know astrology, but she has a Libra in the rising sign, and Sun Capricorn, and Scorpio moon. And her brand was she was on point with the Libra. Libra is very harmonic, very soft, and she had a lot of it in her brand. But she, like I mentioned, we use everything in your chart. It's all the energy. So she was hiding the depths of her moon in Scorpio in there, and some other things that she had. And we worked on how to bring that depth to the brand, and at the same time emphasizing that beauty and harmony and lightness of the Libra. And she told me that she didn't know how we would do it because from when we started, but she was glad she trusted it, because at the end she saw exactly how to bring the depth. And the depth is something that, of course, it's not the same for everyone. Depth is something, and intensity is something very specific from Scorpio, but everyone has all these facets of their personality that usually are not all showing, and it takes time to integrate. So part of it is, of course, me showing what's in the birth chart, so that the person can integrate, but also you need to start using it to have a feel of what it's like to you. So I give a lot of suggestions, but each client finds, okay, so what are the pictures that I have that express this better? What are the topics that I can talk more from these ideas that are going to emphasize this better? And even to the point of which fonts you're using, because fonts give subtle message with your copy that sometimes we don't pay too much attention to, but they can give a message that's more soft. They can give a message that is more direct, depending on the shapes of it. So even that, it's something that we work on together to find which ones express your energy better.
Awesome. Yeah, and that's something that you don't always think about too, is with the astrology piece. Like, that's interesting that like your fonts might change based off of your astrology, and the colors of your brand. Like maybe you created brands or colors that you saw other people do, or what seemed like they were good colors together. And then when you get into the nitty gritty of it, you're like, well, that's not actually representing who I am and how I'm actually showing up in the world. And then once you change that, it's crazy how it starts to feel more like you. So you start showing up in a different way, and you're able to connect with people at a different level and build those relationships in a different way. So I love that you can pull like the colors, the fonts, the pictures, like you mentioned, the brand photos that we use. I know, like for myself, one of the things that I learned when we talked was like movement is part of who I am. And some of my pictures were very like posed and like positioned. And it's true. Like the more that I use those like fun, spontaneous, like actiony, like I'm a hands person. Like I use my hands, as you can tell right now, a lot. So representing myself being very still and like not in that movement way was disservicing my brand and kind of showing who I am in those photos, where I like when I'm leaning in and I'm having like smiling, like my eyes light up in a different way, and it just makes the photos more energetic, and people can like be drawn into that. So I definitely have noticed how that can play a piece in it too. Like just being aware of it has been shifting for myself, because you don't know what you don't know, right? But once you're aware, like that you can use, like I know now, like go take a hot bath, or drink a glass of water, or have fun in my photos and don't do them completely posed, but have movement and action to it, which is what my natural state is. So it just makes so much more sense. All right. So any other tips or advice or anything that you feel like that we didn't cover that would be super beneficial for somebody who's new to astrology branding that they should know before they go to your website and check you out?
Yeah, there's one point that I always give to especially entrepreneurs in the chart. That's called the part of fortune. Of course, it would take me longer to talk about each one in each house and each sign. But if anyone wants to check that for themselves, of course I can talk with them and give you more insights on that. But if anyone wants to check for themselves, just go to Astrocom. Is a good resource to get your birth chart, and look where you have a circle wheel with a cross inside. That's the part of fortune. And Google what that means. Basically, again, the same thing that we talked about the sun, what element you have in it, it's going to be what will help you get unstuck at any moment you get stuck. For example, writing a story or a blog post, something like that, writing an email, or any even bigger things on your businesses. So if you get stuck on making a decision, you can go to that and see also which house it is, because that's kind of like an area of your life that's going to help you unblock that.
Awesome. Great. Well, I'm going to ask you just a couple of fun questions that I'm asking everybody as part of the summit. So, and they're just kind of round robin, like we'll go pretty quickly through them. But I'm curious, do you have a morning routine? And if you do, what are like those top things that you do every day to set yourself up for success?
I do. So I've been more disciplined before, but the things that I don't miss is gratitude, a gratitude journal, 3 things every morning. Dancing a little bit, just 10 minutes dancing, no more than that, but it put me on a good mood to start the day. And before that, I always drink a tea that's local from here. It's called mate. It's something that is traditional both here in the south of Brazil and Argentina and Uruguay. So
yeah, I love matcha.
It's not matcha, it's mate.
Oh, it's not matcha.
Yeah,
oh, it's different.
Not matcha. It's a different thing, but it's similar. But it's
awesome. Ooh, that sounds good. I'll have to come visit you so I can try it.
Yeah.
All right. And then what book have you read that has made the biggest impact on you?
Wow, so many. Well, one that really made an impact from the get-go, it's even behind me, it's How the World Sees You, from Sally Hogshead. When I was starting my business, I didn't, I wasn't using astrology for everything yet, but that piece of archetypes in the way that she puts helped me see myself in a way that I couldn't, because it was too close to me. And that helped me gather some insight. And I still use that with clients as well. And I use it for a long time. So I always recommend it.
Awesome. I'll have to check that one out. And then if you could do one thing different today, like if you could talk to like yourself when you first started your business and give yourself as a new business owner, like one tip that you wish you would have known then, what would you tell yourself?
Never be afraid of expressing who I am, to fit what I think others expect. That would be what I would say.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Because you never know what others expect. You think
you don't.
You know.
Yeah, and we don't care what their opinion is anyways. We're just living our lives and being us and showing up authentically. So I always say, like, it's none of my business what other people think about me, because I can get held up so much in that thought process and in that story of worrying about what they think that I lose myself. So I don't allow their opinion to matter anymore to me, and that's helped a ton. All right, I have one more question for you. So what does attract and stand out mean to you?
That one is hard. So attract and stand out means being authentic to you, and again, doing things from a place of purpose instead of thinking of how things are going to come across, because when you're doing things from a place of purpose, like people really need to hear this, you get out of your way and you're able to actually attract and stand out.
Yes, so good. Awesome. So everybody is going to want to get in touch with you, and I know that you are offering a free gift for them. Tell us a little bit about the free gift that you're giving as part of the summit.
Great. So the free gift, it's about how to be magnetic from the inside out, and it will show basically this rising sign thing that I mentioned here. So if you know your rising sign, you're going to have your steps to bring that out and use that, and a few more tips that you can get in the gift.
Some extra bonuses. Love it. And where do we find you? Where do you love to hang out on social media if we want to connect?
Lately, I've been loving Instagram, so you can find me there. And I also have a Facebook group if you want to check out, but you can find it all on Instagram.
Awesome. And I will make sure that the link to the free gift is down below this video, as well as all the ways to connect with you on social media. I know that I follow you on Instagram stories, and you show up all the time and you share such valuable resources and tips so often. So thank you for doing that. And so thank you, Lais, for being on with me today. And I will see everybody on the next interview. I hope you guys are having an awesome day and enjoying this. And definitely go check out what your birth sign is and pull up all the information that we talked about today and start seeing how you can use that to attract and stand out by using astrology as part of your messaging. All right, everybody, we'll talk to you soon.
Bye.